All right. Well, we are live.
Welcome,
Hap-
everyone.
Hello, everyone. Happy after Thanksgiving. I hope all you guys had a really good Thanksgiving. I know how it can be during the holidays, so yeah, I hope you guys had a good experience, good family experience. I know not everybody can, and so I'm here to wish you guys a happy or a better time now that Thanksgiving's over. So,
But yes, we have Christmas coming up.
we have Christmas coming up. Christmas is one of my most favorite and most hated holidays all at the same time.
Why is
Uh,
that?
I love the lights. I love people are in the giving mood and all of that is really good stuff, but I hate the commercialization, the rush, the just craziness, right? I have family members that you can't even really talk to them because they get so stressed out about everything and it's just like, okay, whatever. I just take a step back and let them do their thing and I stay out of it, but it's it's one of those things. It's the holidays, right? It's to be expected in a sense. Like, yeah, it's gonna get, there's a lot of family stuff going on for some people, and you got to get gifts and all that stuff.
Well, you don't have to get
You don't
gifts.
have to get gifts, but it's kind of like socially expected that you're gonna need to go get gifts in a sense. And I
Well,
I actually like giving gifts, but there's the stress that comes with, oh crap, did I get this person a gift? What do they, I don't know what they want, like all that stuff. And then you just get people gift cards, which seems like disingenuous because you're kind of like copping out, giving them a gift card.
right. Well, I don't know. I used to think that getting gifts was important and, you know, giving gifts.
Mhm.
And over the years, I've adopted more of the minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I no longer give gifts. Like, yeah, it sounds crappy, but unless I know for a fact that the person is really going to use the item or whatever, I
Mhm.
just don't. I'd rather not burden somebody with, oh, somebody gave this to me and now I have to keep it or whatever. Because I went through that. I went through that helping my grandmother go through all her things before she had to move into a nursing home, right?
Oh man.
Like, she's got a closet full of things
Yeah.
that she's just holding on to because she didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
things she's never used.
Yeah.
And I think experiences, right? Like that's how I feel like is a gift. If you can give someone your actual presence and a cool experience,
Mhm.
I think that makes a way better gift than just getting somebody something just to get them something, right? Because I've experienced that. Like, oh, I got to get them a gift. So they gave me stuff that I had no desire in owning. And I don't want to be rude, but I was rude. I was kind of rude about it because it was people that I thought knew me well, right?
Mhm.
Like, why are you getting me this? Like, this is not even close to anything that I have expressed, right? That I could use. And
Yeah.
maybe it sounds mean, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like it puts people in a predicament
Mhm.
of having to accept something that they know for a fact they're not going to use,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I would say that all makes sense. I agree that experiences are far more valuable than things. I have not just stopped giving gifts to everyone because of that, but I agree with you. In fact, my brother and his family, that's kind of what they go for. They'll give each other small things, like maybe little things that people need, so it makes sense, but then they focus more of their money and resources on experiences, going places, vacations, that kind of stuff. So that's all great. Everybody's different. I think human beings in general are not good gift receivers. We seem to be better at giving than receiving in most cases. I know it's kind of weird to receive a gift. You're like, especially when it's something you're not super excited about and you're just kind of like, oh wow, thank you. You kind of have to put on that face because you don't want to be rude. Like I get it if it's someone in your family maybe that you've told before, like you don't that's you're not interested in that stuff, like or you don't get me anything, but they get you something stupid anyways, and you're like, listen, I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate you thinking of me, but like I can't use this. Like I'm never gonna use this, or this isn't anything I use or am interested in or whatever. How do you how do you go about that? How do you say that to them? Do you just tell them like thanks for nothing and take your
Well, I
gift
wouldn't
back?
suggest being rude like I
Yeah, don't
was.
be rude.
Like I was straight up rude. Like, what the hell is this? Like,
Yeah, that's probably not the right way to go about it. That's probably not the right way to go about
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you know,
I
it,
understand you
it
feeling
just
that
really
way.
threw me off.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I thought
uh,
you actually understood or knew me better than that. But yeah, I get that. I get that.
yeah,
But
but
don't, you know,
yeah, let's go. Let's talk about some things that we're thankful for. Since
yeah.
yesterday was just Thanksgiving, so I wanted to come on here and make sure that we thank, first of all, the people that are supporting us.
Hmm.
Um, I know several of you are watching my live, which it's much better if you join us in the Zoom. um,
All right, they can watch us on the live. Don't
well,
mind
I'm
that.
going to shut it down in a minute. I don't keep it rolling.
Well, you can go to our YouTube channel too. We have it live on
Yeah.
YouTube as well.
Like
So,
you guys can go to YouTube, but you get a better picture of us if you actually come into the Zoom and join us and get to talk to us and whatever. But anyways, I wanted to thank all of our wonderful supporters and Pace too, because he's one of the major reasons that we've come together, many of us. Um, and of course you, Justin. I want to thank you. So look, see, this is the terrible thing you get on when I'm doing a live from my phone. My phone just fell because I don't have a stand.
hmm.
Just, um, but yeah, I wanted to just thank a lot of people for.
I'm thankful for you. I'm absolutely thankful for you and what you've brought to to the business and to this relationship. So I appreciate you very much. And I appreciate my family. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful that we're even able to do any of this, to be honest. There's a lot of people that right now, especially are in survival mode. And you know, thinking about doing something like this, what we're doing is the last thing on their minds. And so I'm grateful to be able to have this opportunity and to be able to build something with someone that, you know, I get along with. So,
You act
um,
like you don't get along with very many people, which is
well,
not true.
not, I should say, I get along with people, but from a business perspective, I don't get along with many people. Um, and that's just because over time, and I think this is just natural when you start trying to build a business, you start to realize like, oh, I understand now why people are short and don't have a lot of time because they've been through all this. They've tried to help people and wasted tons of time doing it and not received anything, no reciprocation on the other side of it. And so I understand why, people are very guarded with their time and with their energy and all of that. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But I think that's a normal progression as you do this and do it for long enough. But again, I still very much want to help people. You and I both are very much interested in helping people, but there needs to, just like Pace says, it's like, you have to have earned the right to ask certain questions. You know what I mean? What does that mean? You have to have done some of the work.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't gone and done some of the research and work yourself, just going and asking a bunch of questions and get using up people's time to ask questions that you could easily find out yourself, That's just one example.
That would
You know,
drive me crazy. Before I even found the real estate realm,
yeah,
it seemed like people would come asking me questions. I'm like, you have literally a computer sitting in your hand, and you're stopping me to ask this. And I'm like, why? I'm like, you'll get your answer
yeah,
way quicker if
yeah,
you just pick up that phone that you know that computer essentially you got in your hand and type in a few things, or hell, now you could just push a button and say it, right?
yeah.
um
I like the way Jesse Stanton talks about this. He says what, and I'm guilty of this too, by the way. But like, if you think about what we have at our fingertips right now, you have AI, you have Google, you have all these resources online that you can go search up just any topic you could possibly want to learn about. You've got Audible, you can go get books and have them read to you. All of this information out there, and so you essentially get handed the answers to the test, right? Answer one is A, answer two is B, and people will look at the test and they'll go, what most people do, especially in the beginning, is they'll look at the answers to the test, be like, oh, one is A, and they'll sit back and go, I wonder why one is A. And essentially what it is, it becomes content. You're just consuming entertainment at that point. You're just pondering on something and you never do anything with it. So you get the answers to the test, but you never do anything with it. And I'm guilty. I don't want people to think I'm talking smack. I'm guilty of this myself, but you have to grow out of it. You have to realize that, especially in real estate, investing in any of it, you're not going to get all the answers. You're not going to know all the answers before you do it. That was one of my biggest challenges, was just not having the kind of steps laid out that I could understand, before I took action. It held me up for a while, and it was very frustrating. But it's because of the way my brain works, and it's because we're all programmed, for the most part, to be employees. So we're used to being told exactly what to do, and when we don't have those steps, it can be very challenging for a lot of people to jump out and to start taking action without understanding the answers. But in a lot of cases, again, you're given the answers, and even when you're given the answers, you don't take action, right? You don't do anything with it. So yeah, and at a certain point, are you really helping people? So you have to be really kind of careful about that, because they will take your time. They will uh want answers for nothing, or they want help for nothing and won't appreciate it. So there's a lot of that. So you do have to be kind of guarded, and be careful about who you're actually spending the time with, and helping. Um But there's right ways and wrong ways to go about it. I personally am of the opinion, look, if somebody needs help and I can give them, and I have the experience and the knowledge to help them, you know, I will help them, but I've still got to be careful about my time in doing it, because I've wasted too much time. I've had too much energy and effort, used and just thrown away, and it's like, I can't afford to do that anymore, right? And the reason I'm even bringing this up is just because we're going to get into talking about this market research stuff. And a lot of people, including myself, do not spend the time that they need to spend on really understanding the markets that they're in, and instead they depend on other people to tell them, or what most people will do is they'll just go on Google for a minute and look up, like, is this a good market? And it'll say, yeah, it's a good market because of XYZ, and they'll just trust that and go with it. Or they'll trust that, because one of their friends is doing deals in that particular market, that it must be a good market, right? Because they're doing deals there. So you got to do the work yourself. You got to do, at least earn the right to ask certain questions, get halfway there, or at least attempt to get halfway there on your own, and then come and ask questions, right? Because at least then, who are you going to be more willing to help? Are you going to be more willing to help someone that's just bringing you a bunch of theoretical possibilities? Or are you going to be more willing to help someone who's actually got a real problem that they're trying to solve on a property, or in a situation, right? It makes more sense to help someone with a real problem. So, and again, I don't want people to think I'm judging. I'm guilty of this, right? And you have to kind of grow out of it as a entrepreneur, as an investor. You have to grow out of
Right.
that
Like, yeah,
wanting to hit the easy button and just go ask people a bunch of questions, right?
most of the things we speak about, um, it's because we're going through it or gone through it, you know. So
Yeah.
it's experience based, right?
Yeah, it is. And before I get into this presentation, I do want to preface this with this information I'm about to present to you guys. This isn't me coming up with this. This isn't me designing this and coming up this is our mentors that have shared this information with us, and I'm sharing it with you guys. So the mentors that I'm referring to are Chris James and Angel Miller, and they're just really good at with it. So you can trust the information I'm about to give you is coming from individuals who have the experience, who have gone through it and know what they're talking about. But I'm going to do it and I'm going to present it in a way, uh, in a frame of this is how we took in the information, this is what we did with it, and that's how I'm going to share it with you. Okay. So I don't want to take credit where credit's not due. Really, this information was earned by people who went through the hardships and learned the hard lessons. We get to come in and now join the mentorship and then learn from their hard-earned lessons, and now hopefully avoid them for ourselves and make better decisions early on, right? That's the whole goal. You don't want to learn from your own mistakes, you want to learn from other people's mistakes, right?
As much
So
as possible.
as much as possible anyway. But you're gonna have to obviously you're gonna have to make your own mistakes anyways. You're gonna have to go through it and make your own stupid choices, and it's still gonna happen. As best you try to avoid the mistakes, you're still gonna have to make some and experience some mistakes. But so anyways, I'll get going with this. So the market research part of this, uh w I guess I should be clear here. This is a market research for co-living, but the market research still carries over if you're doing traditional rentals too, traditional real estate investing, this still carries over, right? A lot of it does, or a good portion of it does. So don't think that what I'm about to show you guys is strictly for, co-living entirely. You can kind of judge for yourself when you listen to this if where it fits in for traditional rentals as well, but it's all relevant, and it's one of the most overlooked parts of this whole process, because it's not fun, it's not sexy, and it can be aggravating. It can be time consuming, but I'm going to share with you guys some steps to make it way less time consuming. But that's the fact of it. It's not fun. It's like I think it was either Chris or Angela said it's like watching paint dry, right? I mean, it really is. Like doing the market research is kind of like, oh boy, here we go. But it doesn't have to be. And actually, once you've done it a couple of times, especially with the method I'm going to show you, it actually gets interesting because now you can start opening up your your investment options to more markets and really know what you're doing, or really under not know I shouldn't say know what you're doing, but really understand the market that you're going into and have a much better chance of doing well. So it all starts with the energy that you put in up front with the research that you're doing. So I'll read it like this. Why your market choice is everything. So market research, and I'm just reading this verbatim. This is our mentors talking to us. So I'm going to share this with you guys. But why your market choice is everything. Market research might sound as exciting as watching paint dry, but skipping this crucial first step is a guaranteed way to get schooled by the market. The lessons you learn from bad investments are expensive ones that you won't soon forget. So again, there is some value in making mistakes, but they're expensive. In this business, they are expensive. And if you don't have it to lose, then you really want to avoid making those mistakes. The truth that nobody tells you, skipping it is how you learn $100,000 lessons that you can't afford. So I'm not talking about some academic exercise where you print spreadsheets and feel productive. I'm talking about actually knowing before you sign anything whether this is going to work, right? Whether real people in this real place need what you're building, in this case, co-living, right? Whether the numbers will do what you need them to do so you can actually sleep at night. When you do this right, you know your return before you buy. You're not guessing or hoping, you actually know. You're putting co-living where people are actually struggling to find housing, not just where it seems like a cool idea. So you're building in markets that are moving up, so your investment grows with the economy instead of fighting against it. So that's the preface to all this. And when Pansy and I went through this, when we were doing this ourselves or learning this process ourselves, let me get the presentation ready here. Um, it was a little aggravating because it was kind of like, wait, uh, where do I even really start here? There's a lot of places you can go look up information and, am I looking at the right information? Do I need to take this data point and then go find 10 more just to confirm it? And the answer is there's no right or wrong answer here. What matters is you don't need to be perfect. You need to just go and start doing some of the research. And that's why in this lesson, it's about just picking one market, choosing one market, and then one sub-market in that market and focusing just on that. Don't go wide, and try and look at a bunch of different markets. Just choose one, get the feel for it, and then you can start as you build your process a little bit. Then you can move into other markets and start doing research. But we all know, here, let me share my screen real quick. So before we begin all of this, we all know that there's certain things you want to look for. Obviously, is this my backyard? Can I, if I need to go to one of these properties, can I go to one of these properties, or do I have boots on the ground there that I can have go look at these properties for me? And do those people, my boots on the ground, do they know what they're looking for? Are they good at taking pictures, or all these things, right? You sort of instinctually know some of this stuff already, but there's a good portion of this information here that's not really, it's not readily apparent. And this is where Angel and Chris going in and actually making these mistakes and learning these mistakes the hard way um makes this information so valuable, right? So market research, market understanding is the foundation of every profitable co-living deal. If you choose the wrong market, everything else gets exponentially harder, i.e., or e.g., your deal flow, returns, management. However, choosing the right market, everything gets exponentially easier. So here's what nobody tells you, and I mentioned this before. Skipping the market research analysis phase is how you end up learning $100,000 lessons. So let's go through the summary here. And this is what I want you guys to do as well. It doesn't, again, it's not about being perfect. It's about starting someplace and learning the process and then casting your net out a little bit wider, building a process in the meantime, right? So start with one, identify a single target market that fits your financial goals, strategy, and ability and capacity. What does that mean? So for me, just as an example, I chose Jacksonville, Florida. Why did I choose Jacksonville, Florida? One, because I have family there. Two, because I understand the market. I was been there many, many, many times, spent long months there. I understand the, let's say, the politics a little bit. I understand the various different parts of Jacksonville to a good degree. And more importantly, I have the ability to go out there. I have boots on the ground, people that are out there that can go look if the need arises. So that's why I chose it. I live in California. So one of the benefits of living in California is that it really does force you to kind of look in other markets. So I've already been, since I started this whole thing, I've already been forced to go look in other markets and kind of get used to what that looks like. But for folks who are especially just getting into this or just learning, um, it really is important for you to, if your backyard isn't going to work, maybe like California is just very expensive, very competitive. California landlord tenant laws are horrible. This isn't a market that you start in for buying and holding real estate. That's not to say you can't buy and hold real estate and be successful here. It just means when you're learning, especially when you're first starting out, California is probably not the best market to start off in for all of those reasons. So anyway, I chose Jacksonville and then choose one single metro or submarket of that market. For example, I chose Jacksonville. Now it's time to niche way down and let's choose a zip code. Let's choose a submarket in that market. Okay, so just choose one for now, one zip code, one submarket. Now, after you've done that, you collect the supporting data, and we'll go through how to do that here in a second. But collect the supporting data, rents, growth, demand, etc. Create a written rationale of why this market is the right fit for you. For me, I just kind of told you my rationale of why this market's a good fit for me from a high level, but that's without knowing any of this other stuff yet, right? Even though I chose Jacksonville, some of these market indicators I had no clue about, right? I just knew that, look, I know people are moving there. I know people are making money there right now, doing traditional rental, and I have people there. So I know I can get there. I know I have people there. Those were some of the main reasons I chose it. But some of these other data points like crime rates, job growth, demand for co-living or demand for rental, these are things that I wasn't even really thinking about early on when I chose this market, right? So again, it's important, just write it down, like really think about it. Like, why is this market the right fit for what you're trying to do? Even if you're not doing co-living, like, why is this the right market fit for you? And then commit to that market and sub-market. Once you have the data, you can now make an informed decision on which market to choose. All right, we'll move on. So the market research steps. Now I know these are all slides, guys. I know this is don't fall asleep on me, okay? Stay awake on me while I go through this, but it'll be worth it at the end, I promise. So one of the greatest things that we have access to is the Padsplit data. Padsplit, if you go create a host account, which I will put our invite link so that you can go create a host account. It's free, you don't have to pay for it. But the host account data is much more robust, it's much more rich, and it'll give you a much better um, view of the market uh, based on their proprietary data. So go create a host account in Padsplit. Then you go identify your target market. So you identify your target market and select a few sub markets. Now I am sticking to what I told you in the beginning. Just choose one for now. As you get better at this, then you can choose, three or four more and go through the process with those additional submarkets. Obviously, you want to try and grow the area that you're looking in, because if you just choose one zip code, well, you're going to be relegated to that area, and there may or may not be a lot of options in that submarket. So you want to give yourself a um, better capacity to get deals done. So you want to widen that area as you get better at this. So, anyways, just for now, choose one. And then when you do your research, these are the main points right here: demographics, target demographics, affordability, safety, job growth. So, demographics, we're talking about population size, growth rate. And one of the important metrics is 100,000 to 2 million residents. Someplace big enough so that there's always someone moving there for work, school, or starting over, whatever. Does it have to be 100,000? No, but you want to know that population is growing there by at least 2%. Tenant type. So target demographics, what kind of renters are there? Are we talking about working professionals, healthcare workers, gig workers, blue collar workers? What are we talking about? And what's the median household income? So affordability, you want to calculate rent to income ratio. This is one of these data points that I had no clue about, that I just wasn't considering. Why? I just I don't know. I wasn't considering it. Rent to income ratio. So you divide what the average rent is, and you can do it a couple of ways. I chose, what's the average rent for a three bedroom, two bathroom? What's the average rent for a two bedroom, maybe two bathroom, and then average rent for a one bedroom? Depends on what, if you're renting by the room, most people are not going to move their family into a house that rents by the room unless they, and they're serious, unless they're in a serious financial situation. So most of the folks you're going to be renting these individual rooms to are going to be individuals or maybe a couple. It just depends, but for the most part, you want to get that average rent for, single one bedrooms or two bedrooms at the most, I would say. So get that average rent and then divide that by the median household income in the area. And if it's greater than 30%, that tells you that there is a need for affordable solutions. The 30% marker tells you that 30% of the individual's income is being used for rent. So you want it to be more than that. You want it to be slightly more than that if you can. 30% or higher. If what you're paying for rent is using up 30% or greater than of, your total income, then that's an issue. That's an affordability issue. You start to see demand for co-living go up and be something that's viable in that market as you hit that 30% number. So safety check crime rates, crime grades. Crime has to be low. Why? Because people don't pay premium rent to feel unsafe. That's why. So if you want to, you want to start making premium rents on these places that you're going to be purchasing and managing, then the crime's got to be relatively low, right? You don't want to buy properties necessarily in the hood where crime's really high, but that also doesn't mean it's a total deal killer. So there can be places where crime is slightly higher than the average, but there's still a really high demand for affordable living and people who can afford it and will pay rent on time. Um, so something to consider. Crime, I would say crime rate being, not super low, it's not necessarily a deal killer, but that's something you got to look at while you're doing your market research. So job growth numbers, check job growth numbers. Also look at employees in the area. Is there only one major, I'm sorry, employers in the area? Is there only one major employer or are there many employers? Why is that important? Well, because if there's just one employer or one industry in that market, what happens when they go away? Now your tenant base goes with it, right? So you should be seeing job growth going about 2% per year. And don't worry, I know this is a lot. There's a lot of data points here. There's a lot to look at, but I'm going to show you guys a way to speed this up. So just bear with me. This is some more market research. We go through housing market analysis, transportation, competitive landscape, regulatory environment. By the way, I'll make this presentation available for download and I'll put it in the description, available for download. But for those who, well, I'm still thinking about that. I might make it for download. Maybe if people DM me, maybe I'll just send it to you. I'm still deciding on what I'm going to do there. As we look through all this, look, you can kind of read what we're actually doing for the market analysis here, but it's a lot, right? So housing market analysis, it doesn't have to be, again, you don't have to get caught in analysis paralysis, which is I'm hugely guilty of that, by the way. So as you go through these different points here and you're looking at the market, just be careful of that, right? You don't want it to cause it cause you to freeze up and not actually take action, right? So watch out for analysis paralysis. But these are all the different points here. One of the big points here, by the way, regulatory environment, zoning and legal. This is what's really cool about having access to Padsplit. This is what's really good about having access to Padsplit's information. All of their core market areas are the zoning and regulatory has already been determined by Padsplit's legal team. So you can be very confident if you're choosing a Padsplit core market that this stuff has already been figured out by the people that are, that have set up their co-living properties there. So landlord friendly factors like, benefit from Padsplit comprehensive analysis. And I'll show you guys this here in a minute. But again, these are just additional data points that you want to look at while you're doing your market analysis. Okay, market opportunity scoring. Use Padsplit's proprietary demand analysis tool. This will help you pinpoint prime markets and gauge the true appetite for co-living solutions in your market. Supply constraints. Leverage Padsplit supply analysis methodology to identify market gaps and opportunities for new co-living. All right, let's break out of this really quick. I want to give you guys a breakdown of how I've been doing this. So here's Padsplit. This is what the Padsplit host dashboard looks like. And again, I will give you guys a link in the description so you guys can go set up your own Padsplit host account. But this is what it looks like. So you come to your dashboard. So if you ever land, once you log into Padsplit, you actually just click on your name up here on the top right, and there'll be, if you're not already in the dashboard, there'll be an option here that says go to your dashboard. So for example, if I just click on Padsplit here and go out to their main page, right, and I sign in. So if I click on this, yeah, it says go to dashboard. So you go to your dashboard, go to resources, and you can see in their resources section, they've got, look, Padsplit requirements, where to buy next, compare properties, right? They've got market data insights, and we can go through each one. But each one of these goes back to their actual map. So when you go into these tools, a lot of times it'll bring up their map. But you can see all these different market resources you have here, right? So So anyway, apologies there, but you can see all the different market analysis tools you have here in here. So one of the ones that I really stick with the most is just their map. I mean, you get a lot of really good information just straight from this map here. So let's go look at one of the zip codes we decided to go with, which is the 32216 zip code. So it brings up Jacksonville. And what you want to be looking at, by the way, if you zoom out on the map here, these blue dots, these are core markets. These are areas where they have enough data coming in from actual operators to where they can give you some very Passbook can give you some very good details about that specific market. And there's some other, I forget the other definition for co-living here, or for what makes it a core market. I'll look that up here in a second, but it's what you need to be looking for. The most important thing for you guys is just look for the blue dots. Those are the Padsplit core markets where the Padsplit legal team has already put resources into that area. They understand the zoning regulations in that area. There are enough operators to where they've gathered enough data, useful data that you can use to start investing in that market. So let's take a look back at the 32216 zip code. So you can see it brings up this little section right here. So where are we? Jacksonville City Center is right here in the middle. There's our zip code. You can see there's only 13 active units there. Weekly room rates, right? 187 for rooms with a shared bathroom, 279 for per week for rooms with a private bathroom. Occupancy rates, 100% average occupancy. Now, you're going to have higher occupancy rates just because of the low number of units in the area. So it's going to be commensurate. That number typically starts to go down a little bit as you have more and more units because it's just more data points. But 100% average occupancy, 2 days to your first booking, which is really good. 11 days to get 80% booked. So those are really important numbers, and this is what helps us determine an area to look at. In other words, 13 active users, it's not completely saturated, right? You've got other zip codes in here like 32207, I think. Yeah, no, they got a little bit higher number of units. Which one was it? I think it was one of these other zip codes right here. Hold on. There's one that has just a ton of um has a ton of properties right now. Um, which one is it? One of these spots has a ton of, yeah, here we go. 32210. So you see this 253 active units. This isn't a very big area here. When I see that, that now that doesn't necessarily mean it's a deal killer, but that's pretty saturated. In other words, the people in this market, the people who got in here got in early, um, or they got in, they've already figured it out that this is a good market for co-living, or this particular submarket is a good submarket for co-living. So this isn't a market you want to start off in. So you got a lot of competition here, and prices are probably going to be a little bit prohibitive in areas where there's a lot more co-living. So that's why we chose, you want to look around. There's a couple of main data points here. You want to see low number of units or lower number of units, and you also want to see a really good occupancy score, average occupancy. 85% or better is where you want to stick to for that. So really good. Just from a really quick glance, you go into Padsplit, you pull up the map, you get this data right here, and you're already off to the races, right? You already are way more informed than you would have been otherwise. And if we go back out to the resources section, pad split requirements, each listing must meet our minimum requirements before it can be listed. Ensure your property meets them with these guidelines. So these are really good guidelines for any individual property that you're looking at. You can get a really good idea of, is that property going to meet these specific guidelines for pad split. But again, if you're in a core market, you can pretty much feel assured that your property is probably going to be all right for co-living in that market. Um, anyway, let's go back to the presentation really quick. If you guys have any questions about any of this, obviously you can hit us up, but we'll go to the next one. Where is it not going? There we go. All right. What are the red flags? What are the Now these red flags doesn't necessarily mean it's an absolute hard no, but if you see these things, you should proceed with extreme caution. So people are leaving for obvious reasons. If people are leaving, and you can see what I put here, if people are leaving, that's not a glitch, that's actual trend. That means people are voting with their dollars and with their feet, and they're saying, get me out of here, and they're leaving. Great example of that, New York City right now. People are leaving New York in droves right now. Um, don't be the last one holding a property in a shrinking market. Everyone owns their home. If more than 75% of people own their home, your rental pool is going to be tiny. The whole economy runs on one thing. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. If there's only one employer or one industry and it goes down, your tenant base goes with it. Too many empty apartments. If traditional rentals are sitting vacant, then co-living isn't solving a problem. So you're just adding to the noise at that point. Nobody has jobs, right? High unemployment means that people can't pay rent on time or consistently. So you're going to be spending more time chasing late payments than growing your business. All right, these are the deal breakers. These are the big ones. These are the ones, if you see these, walk away immediately. You see rent control. Again, this is the moment the city caps what you can charge for rent, you're walking into a trap. Don't do it. The market is already flooded with co-living. Excuse me. The market's already flooded with co-living. If everybody else has figured this out, then you're late. So that's kind of what I was trying to articulate earlier. But acquisition costs are going to be high. Occupancy is going to be a grind, and you're going to be fighting for scraps. So first mover advantage is real. Don't ignore it. You can't get financing. If banks won't lend in a market, that means they know something you don't. So definitely listen to that. The regulations are a nightmare. Some cities make it almost impossible to operate legally. So occupancy limits, restrictive zoning, landlord hostile laws. If the city is fighting you, you've already lost. So don't, again, if regulations like California's regulations are in a lot of these submarkets in California are a nightmare. Red tape is just through the roof. So, um, you might hear my dog barking in the background, by the way. All right, bottom line, jumping into a new market can feel exciting. It can feel like momentum, growth, but excitement without clarity, that's how you burn through resources and lose focus. So your must-haves here. These are the things you want to focus on. Population, I'd say greater than 100K, stable and growing. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100K like we talked about, but you want to see that it's growing and stable. Unaffordability index, 30% or greater. Diverse employment, positive job growth, reasonable property acquisition costs. Again, property acquisition costs can vary widely, but you'll get a good idea once you look at a few properties. You know, look at well more than a few. Once you start looking at properties in that market, you'll get an idea of what the actual acquisition costs are going to be. Um, Favorable landlord tenant regulations. The environment must support landlord operations without excessive restrictions or hold up business operations. So that's a big one. So these are your main ones, your top five. Now here's the bonus. This is what I promised you guys. So I know this, we just talked about a whole bunch of stuff. We talked about a whole bunch of different market points you need to look at and all this and that. Oh my gosh, this is going to take me forever. Well, the good news is you live in the world of AI. So we can leverage AI to do a lot of the heavy lifting work for you, but you're going to have to train it a little bit. And I'll show you what I did to do this. Okay. And I will also share with folks who DM me, I will also share with you the prompts that I used for this AI. I'll show it to you on this video, but if you want the actual copy paste text of the prompt, I will share that with you if you DM me. So what's the bonus? What's the you know, great news about AI? Well, speed, accuracy, basically becomes your digital brain, automates all data aggregation. AI can pull from anything, right? Just about anything. AI can pull from things like Zillow, BLS, Census.com, and you can have it even score properties for you. So it's not just about looking at individual markets. What about individual properties? We got I got traffic in the background. But anyways, built-in scoring and ranking, you can have it literally score the properties for you. Um, and obviously, even with AI, you're still gonna want to have it double check for you. So let's go take a look at this. I'm gonna show you guys how I did this. Okay, so here's ChatGPT, and I did a couple of examples in here, but the way I like to do this is in projects. So if you guys have ChatGPT and you don't see projects, that means you're probably on the free version. Once you get on the paid version, you'll see projects. The difference between projects and just regular old GPTs up here. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go on YouTube, look up how to create a GPT in ChatGPT, look up how to create a project in GPT. There's tons of YouTube videos for this stuff. But the way I like doing it is in a project. The reason I like doing projects is because it keeps everything in its own folder, and it also starts utilizing all of that data inside of that project to learn and build on its knowledge base. So watch this. I'll click on new. Actually, I'll show you my co-living market analysis one right here. So I'm going to go into the project, and right here when you get in, I'll show you how this is done in a second, but this is what the finished product looks like. But once you go into your project, you click on these little three dots right here, edit instructions. And if you haven't added instructions yet, by the way, it'll just say add instructions here. So you click on edit instructions, and this is what it looks like. So if you're watching this, and you don't want to DM me for the actual copy paste text of this, then take a screenshot of this while I'm doing this. So, role, you're a real estate market analyst, expert and strategist. You have deep understanding of all market and zip codes across the United States. You look for the following metrics. Like you can see how I did this. I'm giving it instructions. You research population size, you calculate on affordability, and we go down and down. All of the different data points that I give you guys in the presentation are all in here. I'm telling it to look at all of these components, all of these different data points. You look at the following demographics, right? University and college enrollment numbers. There's some stuff in here that we didn't talk about in the demonstration. You look at the following demographics. You look at the following transportation accessibility information, right? You look at the following competitive landscape information. And right here it says you should use some or all of the following sources and documentation for your analysis. Census Bureau, by the way, these are all of the various different data providers that you can look up when if you just want to do it yourself. And and by the way, I would recommend doing it at least one zip code and going through these different points yourself, looking them up manually so you get an actual feel for this before you just plug everything into AI and have AI do it for you. And the reason I say that is because even though AI is going to give you a pretty good overall view of the market, you're still going to want to be able to go validate some of the stuff. It's not, AI will speed up the work for you exponentially, but it's not the end all be all. You've still got to go in and do a little bit of validation. Because again, AI is pulling from publicly available information. Some of it might be dated. That's why you just want to make sure you're validating. But you can see here, I'm telling it the various places to go. And again, this is just a recommendation. I'm saying you should use some of this. That doesn't mean it's going to only use this stuff, and I go down the list here, right? Transit agencies, Yelp, all of these different data providers for um, market analysis. And then right here at the bottom, one of the most important components of your instructions for AI is your constraints here. This is a big one. You do not hallucinate anything. All information will be accompanied by relevant documentation and sources. You cross-check all sources to ensure you're only providing the most accurate information possible. Do not guess. If you're unsure, ask validating questions. This is telling AI you are not allowed to make shit up. Excuse my French. You're not allowed to make stuff up. You need to look at actual documentation and sources. You need to cross-reference those sources so you're giving me actual, real, accurate information. So this is what it looks like. And when I run through this, let's actually do this here. Do a full market analysis for Jacksonville, Florida 32216. Let's see what it does. And again, every time it does this, it's learning, it's getting a little bit better. It's utilizing all of the other previous searches you've done in that project and building on its knowledge base. And it gets faster and better at it as it goes on. Yeah, that's obviously the idea. But in this case, because I have a lot of tabs open in my browser, it's probably going to take a minute. And because I'm on a Zoom, but normally this goes pretty quick. So, and you can see it's doing additional research here. It's doing a double checking. It's literally cross-checking information to make sure nothing's changed since the last time it gave me a market analysis. And by the way, once this is finished, I'll show you one other thing that I've done in here to help us score properties that we're looking at. There is there's a scorecard formula template, if you will. It's essentially a system that allows you to look at, just like you're looking at a market, it allows you to look at a single property and give it a score. And now you have something every time you look at a property, like if it's not above a certain score, let's not even bother with it. Let's not even bother calling the agent, calling the seller, or anything. And this was also we learned this from the same mentors. So they showed us this as well, which I thought was really cool. Anyways, I'll do this since this is taking a hot second. This is what it actually looks like when it finishes. So it'll literally go through. This was just another market I looked at. Let's go through. Where'd it go? Yeah, corn market. So I told it to do 32223. So it starts off with population and growth, gives me income and rent affordability index numbers, right? You can see here 14.2% of households earn 200K or higher. So that comes down here, we get the result 21%. So that's below our 30%. Right there, it's kind of like a little bit of a red flag. Like, okay, there's not an affordability problem here. It's below the 30% marker. So I'm going to think very carefully before actually moving forward in this market, but let's see what other information it's got for us, right? It's comfortable for average households, young professionals, divorcees, service workers. So that's part of our demographic. Home pricing, right? Typical home value, about 423,000 year over year. It's going down. Home prices are going down. This is true across just about all of Jacksonville right now. There are some markets that are up, but most of them have been softening. But that's just normal market, you know, normal market correction stuff. So medium sale price 430, median listing price 456. So obviously listing prices are higher than the actual value. It's we all know that. Anybody who's been anybody who's been real estate investing for a while knows that people list properties for way more than they're probably actually worth. But anyway, that's the actual pricing data. But you can see as it goes down here, it's giving us all kinds of useful information. And because I told it not to hallucinate, it's giving me sources. Where is it getting this information from? Right? It's not just making this crap up. It's literally giving me links to pages where it's getting this information from. So I can be confident. I can feel confident that, you know, for the most part, this data is pretty accurate. Okay. So let's keep going. Rule of thumb, right? Standard three bedrooms, single family homes, roughly 380 to 500. So it's giving me some more pricing guidelines. Home price appreciation over the last 3 years is up approximately 1.8 year over year, but it's been down. Let's see, FHA's price index for Jacksonville rose from 436 to 461 in 2025, 5.5% over the last 3 years. So that's an interesting metric right there. When the other metric is telling me it's overall the prices are down. Um, so Zillow's 1 year forecast shows that this market is up 0.5% over the next, will go up 0.5% over the next 12 months. So that's interesting. And then it gives you a sort of summary, breakdown. Crime and safety for co-living. This is one of the big, markers that we look at is how bad is crime in an area. Again, you want it to be low, as low as you can find because people don't pay premium rents for places where they feel unsafe, right? Crime grade and area. So it literally gives me the crime statistics and it gives me a grade. This market's got great crime rates, right? They've got low crime. They're an A plus. So that's a definitely a plus for this market. Employment and job growth, right? What are the economic drivers in this market? City of Jacksonville 2023 data. So now this is giving me Jacksonville City as a whole. I think it will, yeah. And then it digs into 32223. So population 962, median age 36.4. Hold on one second for me, guys. I got my little dog barking in the background. Okay, apologies. So challenges of doing it live, people. What can I say? Median household income, you can see it kind of goes through all these different data points, and it really helps us really quickly get a high level, even a more detailed level view of the market and whether or not we're going to continue even pursuing this market, right? What are the things I like about 32223? Well, I like the crime rate, low crime. I like the fact that they've got people with higher than average incomes, which means they can pay rent consistently and on time. That being said, there is not a high demand for co-living in this market. People are either owning or they're renting full homes because they make enough money to do it. So why would I go start a co-living property in this market By the way, in 32223, I think there's only like three co-living properties in this market, right? And if we, in fact, let's go look really quick. I'll show you what this looks like because this is interesting. Yeah, four active units in this market. So at a high level, you're like, oh, wow, there's not a lot of competition here. That could be really good. What is this? 75% average occupancy. You want it to be 85% or better. So this is telling me that they're struggling getting people into these properties. People are not staying in these properties because again, people make enough money in this market to where it's not that big of a concern. So the four people that have properties in this area, I would find out who those properties are and keep an eye on them because they're probably going to be selling them. That would be my guess. Or they're going to be converting it to long-term rental and probably take a little bit of a hit. But so you can see in a very quick period of time, I get a full market breakdown utilizing AI. Now there's again things I want to go validate in here, but you can see how much this speed things up for you. And again, one more time, I'll show you what the actual instructions look like. So you guys can take a screenshot of this if you want and type it out yourself. I wish I could bring this up. Actually, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go in and go into my drive. Watch this. Co-living market analysis AI prompts. All right, here it is. So it's all in here. Anyone with the link? So now all you guys got to do, just DM me if you want this. I'll put the link once the video is edited. I'm still deciding whether or not I want to put this in the description. I might just do it just because I'm a nice guy, but I want to see who DMs me for this stuff. So right here is the information all in a single doc. So all you got to do is copy and paste this stuff into your own AI model and use it. And you can obviously add to it and train it, but let me know if you want it. And then right here, if you don't use, again, if you're using the free chat GPT and you're not paying for it, um, scroll back through this for you guys. But if you're not using the paid version of ChatGPT, the easiest way to go about it, I think even in the free version, you can create your own GPTs. So what you do is you click on Explore here and you go create and you create your own GPT. You just give it a title, quick description, and then the instructions would go right here, right? All the instructions I just showed you would go right here in the instructions section. And then right here, you can upload, if you have any files that you've created for this, you can upload those here too. I'll have to double check that. You may not, if you're on the free version, you may actually not be able to create a GPT. But I'm pretty sure you can. But either way, go ahead and create a GPT and utilize it that way if you don't have access to projects. So that is pretty much it. That's the presentation. If you guys have any questions about that, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You know what I mean? It really is about sticking to picking one submarket and just going through and looking at that market and not going crazy. Um, once Pansy and I did this, it was pretty eye-opening. It was like, holy crap. Some of these zip codes that we had decided we were going to be looking in actually turned out to be not very good. In fact, a lot of them turned out to not be very good.
Well,
So,
it's a good thing we got the information and did the deeper dive. And
mhm. Oh yeah, I'm super grateful that we learned this and went through it ourselves. I'll be honest, I was frustrated at first because it was kind of a lot to go through, and I was thinking to myself, man, if I have to do this for every single market, this is going to take forever. But then AI, oh, interesting. So, anyways, it's a way to speed things up, but you should really, like I said, go through it yourself at least once. And if you didn't, if you missed some of this or what have you, I will share with you guys the slides. I'll put the slides up and make them available for download. And I will also, for folks who DM me, send you the AI prompt. So,
I think you're generous there.
yeah, well, it's about value, right? It's
Yeah.
about providing value. So, anyways, I know we're after the holidays here. I know it's late and people are probably still recovering from Thanksgiving, but for those who watch this, for those who, or even those who are new, like, subscribe, give us some feedback, let us know, what you think. And, yeah, I
We'll
think we
see
will,
you next week.
yeah, we will see you guys next week. We're really trying to be a little bit more consistent with when the actual podcast happens, but it's tough because we want to bring guests on and they can't all hit on Fridays at 5 p.m. So we're thinking of doing some other things. We'll keep you guys posted on that. But yeah, keep showing up. Ideally, we'd like you guys to jump in the Zooms because you can ask questions, you can meet the folks that we bring. And yeah, but we'll see you guys next time, all right? Thank you guys all for showing up and
Thank
for
you.
supporting us. Appreciate you guys. See ya.